Imagine you wake up in darkness, not the comfortable darkness of your bedroom, not the silence broken by distant traffic or the glow of electronics. You wake to absolute blackness in a stone room in southern France in the year 1237. The air is cold. Your breath forms clouds you cannot see. Your body aches from sleeping on a wooden plank with no mattress, no pillow, only a thin woolen blanket that provides almost no warmth against the October chill. You are a Cathar. Or more precisely, you are attempting to be one. You've taken the vows. You've received the consolmentum, the ritual that supposedly freed your soul from the prison of flesh and initiated you into the ranks of the perfect ones. You believe the material world around you was created not by God but by Satan, that your body is a cage for a divine spark that yearns to escape, that every moment you remain alive in this corrupted realm is suffering, and you are being watched. Someone in this town, perhaps in this very house, is an informant for the Inquisition. The Dominican friars are in the region. They arrived 3 weeks ago. They have already arrested 12 people. 4 have been burned. The others are being questioned in ways that make strong men confess to anything, true or false, just to make the pain stop. You have perhaps 24 hours before they come for you, probably less. Every decision you make today could be the one that kills you. Every word you speak could be reported. Every ritual you perform could be witnessed. Every moment of weakness, every compromise with the material world you have sworn to reject, every sin could be your last. You will not survive this day. Few do. Let me show you why. The first light of dawn has not yet appeared, but you must rise. The perfecti, the perfect ones, do not sleep late. Indulgence in rest is indulgence in the flesh, and the flesh is the enemy. You force yourself upright, your joints protesting. The diet you're required to follow has left you weak, your muscles wasted, your bones visible beneath skin that bruises easily. You've eaten no meat for 8 months, since you received the consolmentum. Meat is forbidden absolutely. Animals are born through sexual reproduction, the mechanism by which Satan traps more divine souls in flesh. To eat meat is to participate in this diabolic system, to take into your body the corrupted matter created through the sexual act. You cannot eat eggs for the same reason. You cannot consume milk or cheese or butter. These are products of animal reproduction, extensions of the sexual process fundamentally tainted. You subsist on bread, vegetables when available, some fruits, water. In winter, in this cold stone house, in a town under inquisitorial investigation, vegetables are scarce. You ate a piece of bread yesterday, a small piece. Your stomach clenches with hunger, but hunger is good. Hunger reminds you that the body is temporary, that its demands are distractions from spiritual truth. You try to believe this as you stand in the darkness, dizzy from lack of food. But even before you can break your fast with whatever meagre portion is available, you must pray. The Lord's Prayer. Not once, not 10 times. You will recite it more than 100 times before the sun sets today. Possibly more than 200 if you're diligent. It is the only prayer the perfecti use, the only one taught by Christ himself, uncorrupted by the Catholic Church's additions and elaborations. You kneel on the stone floor. The cold penetrates your thin robe immediately, making your knees ache. You begin. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. You whisper the words in the darkness. Your breath is the only sound. You are alone in this room, but you know others in the house are awake, are also praying, are also preparing for a day that might be their last. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. You have recited this prayer thousands of times since receiving the consolmentum. It should bring comfort. It should connect you to the divine realm beyond this material hell. But this morning, you are cold and hungry and terrified. The words feel hollow. Your mind wanders. You think about the informant. Who is it? The woman who sheltered you last month? The man who attended the ceremony where you preached? One of the other perfecti? Anyone could be working with the Inquisition. The Dominicans pay informants. They promise reduced sentences to those who betray others. They threaten torture to those who refuse to cooperate. Give us this day our daily bread. The irony of these words strikes you. Daily bread. You will receive a portion so small it barely qualifies as bread. And you're supposed to be grateful for it, supposed to view even this minimal sustenance as too much attachment to material existence. You lose count of your prayers, you must start again. The perfecti are required to pray with absolute attention. Distraction is sin. Wandering thoughts are weakness. You force yourself to focus, to mean every word, to push away the fear and the hunger and the bone-deep cold. By the time you finish your morning prayers, the first grey light is filtering through the narrow window. You have recited the Lord's Prayer 93 times. Your knees are numb, your back aches from kneeling. You stand slowly, careful not to make noise that might wake those still sleeping. You must dress. Your clothing is simple, as befits one who has renounced material possessions. A long dark robe, rough wool that irritates the skin, deliberately uncomfortable. Comfort is dangerous. Comfort makes you forget you're in a prison. The robe is patched in several places. You own nothing else. No second robe, no additional clothing. No possessions of any kind beyond this single garment and the cord you tie around your waist. The cord is important. It was blessed during your consolmentum, touched to the Gospel of John, consecrated through ritual. You are never to remove it. Some say it has protective powers, that it wards off the demons that inhabit the material realm. You are not certain you believe this, but you wear it anyway. To remove it would be to reject the ritual that made you one of the perfect ones. You step carefully down the narrow stairs from the sleeping room to the main chamber of the house. 2 other perfecti are already there, preparing for the day. One is an older man, perhaps 50, though he looks 70. His name is Arnaud. He's been a perfectus for 12 years. 12 years of this deprivation, this constant vigilance, as this daily confrontation with the possibility of torture and burning. You cannot imagine sustaining this for 12 years. You've been a perfectus for 8 months, and already you feel yourself breaking. The other is a woman, Esclarmonde. She's younger than you, perhaps 25, but her face is gaunt, her eyes hollow. Women can be perfectae, can hold the same spiritual authority as men. This is one of the things that makes the Cathars threatening to the Catholic Church, this equality between sexes. But equality and suffering is still suffering. Esclarmonde barely speaks. She prays constantly, her lips moving in silent recitation of the Lord's Prayer, her fingers working the cord around her waist. Neither acknowledges you directly. The perfecti are supposed to minimize unnecessary speech. Words are vibrations in air, are disturbances of matter, connections to the material world. You nod to them, they nod back. This is sufficient. The house belongs to a credente, a believer who sympathizes with the Cathars, but has not taken the full vows. His name is Bernard. He's taking an enormous risk by sheltering you. If the Inquisition discovers he is harbouring perfecti, He will be arrested, his property will be confiscated, he will likely be burned. But he believes in the Cathar teaching. He believes the Catholic Church is corrupt, that the Pope is a servant of Satan, that salvation cannot come through the ornate rituals and wealthy clergy of Rome, but only through renunciation of the material world. Bernard provides you with a piece of bread. It is perhaps 1/4 the size of a normal breakfast portion. You accept it with both hands, bowing slightly in the gesture of gratitude the perfecti use. You eat it slowly, making it last, trying to convince your protesting stomach that this is sufficient. It is not sufficient. You're constantly hungry. Your body is consuming itself, burning muscle for energy, weakening day by day. Some perfecti practice extended fasts, going days or even weeks, eating only minimal amounts. You have tried this. He collapsed on the 4th day. Arnaud found you unconscious and forced you to eat. He explained that dying from self-imposed starvation before your time is not martyrdom but suicide, and suicide is a sin even for the perfecti. The distinction seems thin to you. Everything is a sin. Eating too much is a sin because it indulges the flesh. Eating too little is a sin because it kills the body before God wills it. Walking the line between these extremes requires constant attention, constant judgment, constant fear of choosing wrong. After the meagre breakfast, you must prepare for the day's work. The perfecti do not own property, but they are expected to labour. Manual work is acceptable, even encouraged, as long as it does not involve killing. You cannot be a butcher, you cannot be a soldier, you cannot be a hunter or a fisherman. These occupations require taking life, and the perfecti are absolutely forbidden from killing any living being, human or animal. You are a weaver. You work with wool, creating cloth that Bernard sells in the town market. The work is repetitive, tedious, and it does not pay. Bernard provides for your needs such as they are, and you work for him without wages. You own nothing, you will own nothing. Or everything you produce belongs to others. You sit at the loom in the corner of the room. The light from the window is still dim, making it difficult to see the threads clearly. You begin anyway. Your hands know the movements. Over and under, pull the shuttle through, push the beater forward. The rhythm is meditative, allowing your mind to continue its prayers while your hands work. Our Father who art in heaven. The shuttle passes through the warp. Hallowed be thy name. The beater pushes the weft tight. Thy kingdom come. You work and pray and work, trying to maintain the state of constant devotion the perfecti are supposed to embody. But your mind keeps returning to the danger. The Inquisition is close. They have informants everywhere. Every person who comes to the door could be an agent. Every conversation could be a trap. Around mid-morning there is a knock. Everyone in the house freezes. Bernard goes to the door carefully, opening it just enough to see who is there. You cannot hear the conversation, but you see Bernard's shoulders relax slightly. He opens the door wider. A woman enters. She's a credente, one of the believers. Her name is Fabrissa. You have seen her at gatherings, at the ceremonies where the perfecti preach. She has come for the melioramentum, the ritual greeting between credent and perfecti. This ritual is important, a physical acknowledgement of the spiritual authority the perfecti hold. Fabrissa approaches you, Arnaud, and exclamande. She bows 3 times, lowering her head almost to her knees each time. She speaks the ritual words, "Bless us, good Christians, pray to God for us." You place your hand on her head. He is speaking the response, "May God bless you and lead you to a good end." The words are formulaic, repeated countless times, but they carry weight. In this moment, you're not just a weaver struggling with hunger and fear. You're a conduit of divine grace, a representative of the true God, offering blessing to a soul trapped in the material realm. But even as you speak the words, you wonder if Fabrissa is the informant. She knows where you're staying. She knows the other perfecti in the area. She could report all of this to the Inquisition. One conversation with a Dominican friar, one promise of immunity, and you could be arrested within hours. You cannot think this way. Suspicion is corrosive. If you trust no one, you cannot function. The Cathar community survive through networks of mutual support, credentes sheltering perfecti providing spiritual services to credente. Break that trust and the whole structure collapses, but trust gets you killed. You have seen it happen. A perfectus named Guillaume trusted the wrong person. He was betrayed, arrested, questioned. He refused to recant his beliefs. They burned him in the town square 3 months ago. You were there. You had to watch, had to maintain a neutral expression while the flames consumed a man whose only crime was believing the material world was evil. Guillaume screamed. They always do, despite what the stories say about martyrs going silently to their deaths. Fire is agony. The smoke chokes you before the flames reach vital organs. Sometimes the executioners show mercy and strangle the condemned before lighting the pyre. But Guillaume received no such mercy. He burned alive. It took perhaps 15 minutes for him to die. 15 minutes of screaming, of begging, of prayers to a God who did not intervene. You think about this constantly. You dream about it. You wake gasping from nightmares where you are the one burning, where you feel your skin blistering and your lungs filling with smoke and your voice roar from screaming. Fabrissa leaves after the melioramentum. You return to your weaving. The morning passes in silence, broken only by the rhythm of the loom and the whispered prayers of Esclamond, who has not stopped reciting the Lord's Prayer since you came downstairs. Around midday, Bernard brings water and a small portion of vegetables. This is the main meal of the day, though it would barely qualify as a snack by normal standards. You eat slowly, trying to make your body believe it is satisfied. It is not. The hunger is a constant companion, a gnawing emptiness that never quite goes away. After the meal you must go out. One of the credentes in another part of town has requested that a perfectus come to perform a ceremony. Her husband is dying. He has been a credente his entire life, has supported the Cathar community with money and shelter and silence when the authorities came asking questions. Now, on his deathbed, he wants to receive the consolmentum, the ritual that will purify his soul and ensure it escapes the material realm when he dies. This is common practice. Most credentes live ordinary lives, marrying, owning property, eating meat, engaging in all the activities the material world demands. They support the perfectius but do not themselves take the vows. But at the end of life, when death is imminent, they receive the consolmentum, hoping to die in a state of purity that will free them from the cycle of reincarnation. Going out is dangerous. The perfecti are supposed to travel in pairs for safety, but Arnaud cannot leave because he has his own duties, and Esclamond is too weak from fasting to walk across town. You will go alone. Bernard gives you directions. The house is not far, perhaps 10 minutes' walk through the narrow streets of the town. You step outside. The October sun is weak, providing little warmth. The streets are crowded with people going about their daily business, merchants selling goods, children playing, women carrying water from the well. You pull your hood up, covering your face as much as possible. The dark robe you wear marks you as a perfectus to anyone who knows what to look for. Me, but most people will simply see a figure in a robe and think nothing of it. But some will know, some will recognize what you are, and some of those will consider turning you in. The Inquisition pays rewards for information leading to the arrest of heretics. Not much, but enough to tempt the poor, the desperate, those with grievances. You have no way of knowing who among the people you pass might be considering whether the small amount of money is worth sending you to the flames. You walk quickly, keeping your eyes down, trying not to draw attention. Every step feels exposed. Every person you pass could be a threat. The town is under investigation. The Inquisition has set up headquarters in the local Catholic Church. Dominican friars are conducting interviews, collecting testimony, building cases against suspected heretics. The whole population is on edge, neighbour suspecting neighbour, families torn apart by accusations and denials. You reach the house, you knock softly. The door opens immediately, as if they were waiting just inside. A woman, elderly, her face lined with grief. She leads you upstairs to a small room where her husband lies on a bed, breathing shallowly, his skin pale and waxy. He is dying, truly dying. This is not a case of someone faking illness to receive the consolmentum early. The Cathar perfect ones are careful about this. Performing the ritual for someone who is not actually dying, who might recover, and then fail to maintain the strict requirements of the vows, is a serious problem. If someone receives the consolmentum and then breaks the vows by eating meat or having sex or lying or taking an oath, the ritual is voided. Their soul is not freed. They have wasted their one opportunity for liberation. Some who receive the consolamentum and then unexpectedly recover choose to die anyway, fasting until their bodies give out rather than risk falling back into sin. This practice, called the endura, is controversial even among the Cathars. Is it martyrdom or suicide? Is it liberation or murder? You do not know. You try not to think about it. You kneel beside the dying man. His wife and several other family members gather around. You place your hands on his head and begin the ritual. You recite the Lord's Prayer. He tries to join you, but his voice is too weak, the words coming out as barely audible whispers. You continue, speaking loudly enough for both of you. You place a copy of the Gospel of John on his head. This is the most sacred text for the Cathars. The Gospel that most clearly reveals the spiritual nature of Christ and the evil nature of the material world. You speak the words of the ritual. The promise is that if he dies without breaking the vows, his soul will be freed, will escape the cycle of rebirth, will return to the realm of light from which it was stolen by the false god who created this corrupt world. The man's breathing grows more laboured. His eyes are closed. You cannot tell if he is conscious, if he understands the words you are speaking. You continue anyway. The ritual must be completed. His soul depends on it. And then, in the middle of the ceremony, there is noise from downstairs, shouting, heavy footsteps, the door being forced open. The woman gasps. The other family members go pale. The Inquisition, they have come. Someone informed on this gathering. Hey, someone reported that a perfectus was performing a heretical ritual. Or perhaps they have been watching the house for days, waiting for exactly this moment. You hear them coming up the stairs. You have seconds to decide. Do you run? The window is small, but you might fit through it. But then what? You are in an unfamiliar part of town. You do not know the streets. They will chase you. They will catch you. Do you stay? Face them. Tell the truth and be arrested, questioned, tortured, until you confess not just your own heresy, but the names of everyone you know, every credente who has helped you, every perfectus you have worked with. And then, after they've extracted every useful piece of information, be burned alive in the town square. Do you deny it? Pretend you're not a perfectus. Claim you're just a visitor. Someone who happened to be here. They will not believe you. You're wearing the robe. You have the cord around your waist. The Gospel of John is in your hands. The evidence is overwhelming. The door bursts open. 2 Dominican friars enter, accompanied by 4 armed men, the secular authorities who do the physical work of arresting suspects. The friars are young, perhaps in their 30s, their faces hard, their eyes scanning the room with practiced efficiency. One of them points at you. You are under arrest for heresy. Come with us. Do not resist. You stand slowly. Your legs are shaking. Your mind is racing through possibilities. None of them end well. The dying man on the bed gasps for breath. Forgotten now. His ritual of liberation interrupted by men who believe his soul was never in danger in the first place, because the Cathar teaching is a demonic lie. The armed men grab you. They are not gentle. Your arms are wrenched behind your back and tied with rough rope that cuts into your wrists. They search you, finding nothing because you own nothing. They take the Gospel of John. They examine the cord around your waist and leave it, perhaps thinking it is just a belt. They drag you downstairs. The old woman is weeping. The other family members are being questioned, their names recorded, their association with the heresy documented. They will likely be arrested as well, questioned to determine how deeply involved they were. If they are lucky, they will be forced to pay fines and do penance. If they are unlucky, they will face the same fate as you. You're taken outside. A crowd has gathered, people watching with a mixture of curiosity and fear. Some look at you with hatred, convinced you are a servant of Satan leading souls to damnation. Others look at you with pity, knowing you are just a person who believes something different and will now pay the ultimate price for that belief. They march you through the streets to the Catholic Church where the Inquisition has set up its operations. Every step feels surreal. This morning you were weaving, praying, trying to survive another day. Now you are under arrest, being taken to face interrogation and torture, knowing that everything you say or refuse to say could determine not just your fate, but the fate of everyone you know. They throw you into a cell beneath the church. It is a small stone room. It is completely dark when they close the door, barely large enough to lie down in. There is no window, no light, no furniture. Just stone walls, a stone floor, and darkness. You can hear water dripping somewhere. The air is damp and cold and smells of mold and urine and fear. You are alone. Or perhaps you're not alone. Perhaps there are others in nearby cells. You cannot tell. The darkness is absolute. You try to pray, but the words will not come. You're too terrified. You know what happens now. You know the Inquisition's procedures. You have heard the stories, have seen the results when prisoners are finally released or executed. They will question you. They will ask you to confess your heresy, to admit you are a Cathar, to renounce your beliefs and accept Catholic doctrine. If you confess immediately and convincingly, you might receive a relatively light sentence, public penance, wearing yellow crosses sewn onto your clothing for the rest of your life, fines, perhaps imprisonment for a period of time, but you will not confess. You cannot. To deny the Cathar teaching would be to deny what you believe is truth. The material world is evil. It was created by a false god. Salvation comes through renouncing matter, not through the corrupt rituals of the Catholic Church. You believe this. You have staked your life on it. To recant now would be to admit that Guillaume died for nothing, that all the perfecti who've been burned were fools, that the hunger and the deprivation and the constant fear have been for a lie. So you will not confess, not willingly, which means they will use other methods. Time becomes meaningless in the darkness. You cannot tell if it has been hours or days. No one comes. No one brings food or water. You're simply left in the cell, alone with your thoughts and your fear. Eventually you hear footsteps. The door opens. Light floods in, blinding you after the darkness. 2 guards grab you and drag you out. Your legs barely work, cramped from sitting in the same position for so long. They take you to a room. It is well lit by torches, spacious, with a table and chairs. 2 Dominican friars sit behind the table. One is the man who arrested you. The other is older, his hair grey, his face lined with what might be wisdom, or might be cruelty, or might be both. Sit, the older friar says. There's a stool in front of the table. You sit. Your hands are still tied behind your back. What is your name? The friar asks. His voice is calm, almost gentle. You tell him. There's no point in lying. They know who you are. They were looking for you specifically. You're accused of being a perfectus of the Cathar heresy. Do you confess this charge? You hesitate. Every instinct screams at you to deny it, to claim you are innocent, to say anything that might save you, but lies will not save you. They have witnesses, they have evidence, and the perfecti do not lie. Lying is a sin, a concession to the material world, a denial of truth. I follow the teaching of the good Christians, you say. You do not use the word Cathar. That is what the Catholics call you. You call yourselves good Christians, believing your interpretation of Christ's message is more authentic than the version preached by Rome. The friar nods, unsurprised. You understand that this teaching has been declared heresy by the Holy Church, that to persist in it is to endanger your immortal soul? The Church is in error, you say. The words feel like jumping off a cliff. There is no going back now. The material world was created by an evil power, not by God. Salvation comes through renouncing matter, not through the rituals of a corrupt institution. The younger friar leans forward. Blasphemy. You claim the Church of Rome, established by Christ himself through St. Peter, is corrupt. Christ was a spiritual being, you reply. He did not establish an earthly church. He taught the path of liberation from the material prison. The interrogation continues. They ask detailed questions about Cathar theology, about the rituals you have performed, about the other perfecti you know, about the credentes who have sheltered you. You answer the theological questions honestly, but refuse to name names. You will not condemn others to share your fate. The older friar sighs. You're making this difficult. We do not wish to cause you unnecessary suffering. If you would simply confess your errors, renounce your heresy, and provide us with the names of those who have led you astray, this can end mercifully. I have no errors to confess, you say. The teaching is truth. The friar exchanges a glance with his colleague. The younger one stands. Very well. We will give you time to reconsider. Perhaps a period of reflection will help you see the error of your ways. They take you back to the cell, but this time, before they close the door, they remove your robe. You're left in only a thin undergarment, made completely inadequate against the cold. The stone floor is freezing against your bare feet. You sit in the darkness, shivering uncontrollably, your teeth chattering. This is only the beginning. You know it. They are softening you up, making you miserable, breaking down your resistance before they move to harsher methods. Time passes. You do not know how much. A day? 2 days? It is impossible to tell in the darkness. No food comes, no water. Your mouth becomes dry, your tongue swollen. The hunger, which was already severe, becomes agonizing. Your body is consuming itself, desperate for calories. You try to pray, but your mind is too foggy. Dehydration is affecting your ability to think clearly. You drift in and out of consciousness, unable to tell the difference between sleep and waking. Finally, they come again. You can barely stand. They have to drag you to the interrogation room. A cup of water sits on the table. You stare at it, desperate, but they do not offer it to you. Are you ready to confess? The older friar asks. You shake your head. Your voice is too weak to speak. Very well. He nods to the guards. They take you to a different room. This one is in the cellar, below even the cells. It is cold and damp, and the walls are stained with things you do not want to think about. There are devices here, implements designed for a single purpose: extracting confessions through pain. The strappado is a simple device, a rope attached to a pulley on the ceiling. They tie your hands behind your back, attach the rope to your wrists, and hoist you up. Your arms are wrenched backward and upward, or do your shoulders bearing your full body weight in a position they were never meant to sustain. The pain is immediate and overwhelming. You scream. You cannot help it. Your shoulders are dislocating, the tendons stretching and tearing, agony radiating through your arms and back and neck. Confess, the friar says calmly. Tell us the names of the other heretics. Tell us where they are hiding. End this suffering. You gasp for breath. Every second hanging here is torture. But you know if you confess, if you give them names, those people will be arrested, will face this same torture, will be burned. You cannot do it. You cannot condemn others. I will not, you manage to say through the pain. They add weights to your feet, increasing the strain on your shoulders. Something pops in your left shoulder. A sickening sound followed by a new wave of pain so intense you nearly pass out. The names, the friar says. Give us the names and this ends. You close your eyes. You try to pray, to find some connection to the divine realm, some strength beyond your failing body. But there is only pain, endless, consuming pain. They let you hang for what feels like hours but is probably only minutes. Finally they lower you. You collapse on the floor, unable to move your arms, barely conscious. We will continue tomorrow, the friar says. Think carefully about your choices. They drag you back to the cell and throw you inside. You lie on the stone floor, unable to position yourself comfortably, because any movement of your shoulders sends fresh waves of pain through your body. Do you see you drift in and out of a pain-filled haze that is not quite sleep and not quite unconsciousness? The interrogation continues for days. They use the strappado again. They use other methods. The rack, which stretches your body, pulling your joints apart. The brodequins, which crush your legs between wooden boards. Each session ends the same way. You're given the opportunity to confess, to renounce your beliefs, to provide names. And each time, through pain and fear and the desperate desire to make it stop, you refuse. You're not being heroic. You're not strong. You're terrified and in agony, and part of you wants to confess to anything, everything, just to make the torture end. But you cannot. Something in you, whether it is faith or stubbornness or simply the inability to betray those who trusted you, will not allow the words to come. On the 5th day, or perhaps the 6th, you can no longer keep track. They bring you before the friar again. You can barely sit upright. Your body is broken, covered in bruises, your shoulders dislocated, your legs swollen and damaged from the crushing. "You are a fool," the friar says, and for the first time there is emotion in his voice. Not anger, but something like pity. "You are suffering for nothing. The Cathar heresy is false. The material world was created by God, not by Satan. Your soul is not imprisoned in flesh. There is no cycle of reincarnation. You're dying in agony to defend a lie." "It is not a lie," you whisper. Your voice is barely audible. "Then prove it," the friar says. "If the material world is evil, if the body is a prison, why do you cling to it? Why do you fear death? Or, if you truly believe your soul will be freed when you die, you should welcome the flames." You have no answer for this. He is right. According to everything you believe, death should be liberation, the end of suffering, the escape from the material prison, but you do not want to die. You're terrified of dying. The thought of the flames, the pain, the smoke choking you fills you with dread. "You do not truly believe," the friar says quietly. "In your heart, you know the truth. The body is not evil. Life is not suffering. This world was created by God, and it is good. Your heresy is a rejection of God's creation, a blasphemy born of pride and error. Perhaps he's right. Perhaps you've been deceived. Perhaps the Cathar teaching is false and you are dying for nothing. But even if it is false, even if you have been wrong about everything, you cannot recant now. Guillaume died believing this. Thousands of others have died believing this. To recant would be to admit their deaths were meaningless. I will not confess, you say. The friar stands. Then you are beyond our help. You will be relaxed to the secular authorities for execution. May God have mercy on your soul, though you have rejected his mercy. They take you back to the cell. You know what comes next. You have seen it happen to others. There will be a public ceremony in the town square. You will be given one final opportunity to recant. When you refuse, you will be tied to a stake and the wood will be piled around you. The fire will be lit. You have perhaps 1 day left, maybe 2. You spend it in the darkness of the cell trying to pray, trying to find some peace or acceptance or courage. But there is only fear. The day comes. They drag you out of the cell and into the sunlight. It is blindingly bright after so long in darkness. You can barely see. Your body is ruined, barely able to stand even with the guards supporting you. You are dressed in a simple robe marked with symbols of heresy, so everyone watching will know what you are. They march you to the town square. A platform has been built with a wooden stake in the centre. Wood is piled high around the base. A crowd has gathered. Hundreds of people come to watch the spectacle of a heretic being burned. Some are here out of religious duty to witness the punishment of those who blaspheme against God. Others are simply curious, drawn to the morbid display. A few credentes are in the crowd, then forced to attend to learn what happens to heretics, their faces carefully neutral so they are not suspected of sympathy. You're led up onto the platform. A Dominican friar stands there holding a crucifix. This is the last chance. If you kiss the crucifix, if you renounce your heresy publicly, if you confess that the Cathar teaching is false and accept Catholic doctrine, you might be spared. Not freed, but perhaps given life imprisonment instead of death. The friar holds out the crucifix. Renounce your errors. Accept the truth of the Church. Save your soul. You look at the crucifix. According to Cathar teaching, the cross is an instrument of torture, not a symbol of salvation. Christ did not die on it because Christ never truly had a physical body. To venerate the cross is to worship the mechanism of suffering. You turn your head away. I will not. The crowd murmurs. Some shout encouragement to the friar, urging him to burn the heretic. Others are silent, perhaps troubled by what they are about to witness. The guards tie you to the stake. The ropes are tight, holding you upright even though your legs can no longer support you. The wood is piled higher, up to your waist, ensuring the flames will reach you quickly. The friar steps down from the platform. He nods to the executioner. A torch is brought forward. This is the moment. This is where you die. After everything, after the months of deprivation and hunger and prayer, after the arrest and the interrogation and the torture, it ends here, in fire. The torches touch to the wood. The dry kindling catches immediately. Flames begin to spread, crawling up through the pile. Smoke rising in thick black clouds. The heat reaches you first before the flames. It is intense, making your skin tighten and your eyes water. The smoke is worse, acrid and choking, filling your lungs. You cough, gasping for air that is increasingly filled with smoke and heat. The flames reach your feet. The pain is beyond anything the torture chamber produced. Your flesh is burning, the nerves screaming in agony. You try not to scream, try to maintain some dignity, try to die like Guillaume died, but you cannot. You scream, you beg, you pray desperately to a God you hope is listening, hope will free your soul from this agony. The flames climb higher. Your robe catches fire, your hair. Your skin is blistering, blackening, the fat beneath it beginning to melt. The pain should be overwhelming, should be the only thing you're aware of. But somehow your mind is still working, still conscious, still experiencing every second of this horror. You can no longer draw breath. Your lungs are filled with smoke. Your vision is going dark, either from lack of oxygen or from the flames reaching your face. You are dying. Finally, after all of this, you are dying. Your last thought before consciousness fails completely is a question you cannot answer. Was it worth it? And then there is nothing. The fire burns for hours. By the time it dies down, there is nothing left of you but charred bones and ash. The crowd disperses. The executioner collects the remains and disposes of them in an unmarked grave. The Inquisition records note your execution, your refusal to recant, the completeness of your destruction. Bernard's house is searched the next day. When Arnaud and Esclarmonde are arrested, they face the same interrogation, the same torture. Arnaud confesses, gives names, saves himself through betrayal. Esclarmonde refuses to speak. She is burned 3 weeks after you. Fabrissa was the informant. She reported your location to the Inquisition in exchange for immunity from prosecution for her own involvement with the Cathars. She uses the small reward money to buy food for her children. She never speaks of it, never acknowledges what she did. She lives another 40 years, dying in her bed, never knowing whether she made the right choice. The Cathar movement continues for several more decades, but the Inquisition is relentless. Every perfectus is hunted. Every credente is interrogated. The networks are exposed, the communities destroyed. In 1244, the fortress of Montségur, Isis, the last major Cathar stronghold, falls after a 10-month siege. Over 200 perfecti are given the choice to recant or burn. All 200 choose the flames. They are burned together in a massive pyre at the base of the mountain. the field becoming known as the Field of the Cremated. By 1324, the last known Cathar perfectus is captured and executed. The movement, which at its height had attracted tens of thousands of followers across southern France, is effectively extinct. The Inquisition has succeeded. The heresy has been eliminated. But the questions the Cathars raised do not die with them. Why does evil exist if God is good? Why is there suffering in a world supposedly created by a loving deity? Can institutional religion become so corrupt that it betrays its own teachings? These questions persist, resurfacing in different forms, in different movements, across the centuries. The Cathars are gone. Their books are burned, their fortresses ruins, their beliefs condemned. But their story remains, a testament to what people will endure for what they believe is truth, and to what powers will do to those who believe differently. You did not survive 24 hours as Cathar. Few did. The life they demanded was impossible for most people. The purity they required was beyond human capability. The dangers they faced were overwhelming. To be a Cathar was to choose suffering, deprivation, persecution, and almost certain death. And yet thousands chose it. Thousands lived as perfecti, enduring the hunger and the cold and the constant fear. Thousands died rather than renounce their beliefs, walking into the flames singing hymns, convinced that beyond the agony of burning lay liberation. Were they right? Was the material world truly evil? Were their souls freed when they died? Or did they suffer and die for a beautiful lie, a theology that made sense of suffering but offered no actual escape from it? You will never know. You died believing. Whether that belief was truth or delusion, whether your soul was freed or simply ceased to exist, whether the God of light welcomed you home, or there was only darkness beyond the flames, these questions have no answers that can be verified. What is certain is this: the Cathars lived and died with conviction. They chose their path knowing where it led. They refused to compromise, refused to recant, refused to abandon what they believed was truth, even when truth meant torture and death. History remembers them as heretics. The Catholic Church condemned them as servants of Satan. Modern scholars debate whether they were Gnostics or dualists or proto-Protestants, or simply sincere Christians who interpreted the faith differently. But for you, in those final moments as the flames consumed your body and the smoke filled your lungs, none of that mattered. What mattered was that you believed. You believed the material world was a prison. You believed your soul was divine. You believed suffering in this life would be rewarded with liberation in the next. You believed. And for that belief, you died. This is why you would not survive 24 hours as a Cathar, not because you are weak or cowardly or lacking in faith, but because being a Cathar was not about survival. It was about choosing death over compromise, torture over betrayal, flames over recantation. It was about believing something so deeply that no amount of suffering could make you deny it. Few people, in any age, are capable of that level of conviction. The Cathars were extraordinary not because they were right or wrong about theology, but because they were willing to die for what they believed. And die they did. By the thousands, in flames that burned across southern France for decades, consuming not just bodies, but an entire way of seeing the world. The fires are long cold now. 700 years have passed. The castles where they sheltered are ruins. The towns where they preached have forgotten them. The fields where they burned have been ploughed and planted and harvested countless times. But the story remains. the story of people who believed the world was evil and died rather than accept it as good, the story of a faith so demanding that almost no one could sustain it, and of the few who tried, the story of what happens when belief confronts power, when conviction faces torture, when faith meets fire. You did not survive. You could not have survived. No one could. That was the point. The Cathars were not trying to build a sustainable religion for the masses. They were trying to escape the world entirely, to reject material existence so completely that death became liberation. And for a brief moment in medieval history, thousands of people agreed with them, agreed that the world was wrong, that the body was a prison, that suffering was inherent to existence, that the only escape was through absolute renunciation culminating in death. Then the Inquisition came, the Crusaders came, the fires came, and the Cathars, those who believed they were the only true Christians, were burned as the worst kind of heretics, their ashes scattered on the wind, their teachings forbidden and forgotten, their names erased from all but the records of their persecutors. This is what happens when you try to reject the world while still living in it, when you declare war on material existence while trapped in a material body, when you believe so absolutely in liberation through death that you forget the long, painful road between belief and the flames. You would not survive 24 hours as a Cathar because survival was never the goal. The goal was escape, and they achieved it, one burning body at a time until there were no more left to burn. The Cathars are gone. You are gone.